Welcome to the Modern Classrooms Project podcast. Each week, we bring you discussions with educators on how they use blended, self-paced, and mastery-based learning to better serve their students. We believe teachers learn best from each other, so this is our way of lifting up the voices of leaders and innovators in our community. This is the Modern Classrooms Project podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Classrooms Project podcast. My name is Tony Rose Deanna, and they them pronouns, the designated hype person here at MCP. And y'all, I am joined today by the Alabama Teacher of the Year, first grade teacher, MCP implementer, Katie Collins. Welcome, Katie.
Well, hello. I am so honored to be on this podcast today because, you know, I'm a fangirl of MCP, right? Y'all know that.
Yes. And so you have such a busy schedule, and busy in the most beautiful way, right? Because you have all of these opportunities to be in front of educators all across Alabama. And then I guess just like getting used to being the Alabama Teacher of the Year, right? Because there's a lot of things that go along with that as well. And so I'm really excited to hear about what that looks like for you, what that feels like, and what that sounds like, and how it's shifted or enhanced a lot of what you're doing, right? So again, it's so exciting to be in this space with you. And thank you so much for saying yes to the podcast. I too am fangirling over all the things that you've been doing. So I'm really excited. So before we get started, Katie, what is bringing you joy currently?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, getting to talk to you, Tony Rose, that's bringing me joy. My garden is blooming right now. Are you a garden girl?
I am not a garden girl, but I do appreciate, my sister's trying to be, and my dad has like the best green thumb ever. So, grew up with gardening, grew up with agriculture, all of that good stuff. So what are you planting? What are you growing?
Well, so I have my garden in my front yard because we have our backyard. You can kind of see my backyard right now, but there's trees in the back, and we ended up taking down a bunch of trees. But before that, you need 6 hours of sunlight to grow a garden. And y'all, if you don't have 6 hours of sunlight, you really just need to find the sun and plant there. And then you'll feel happy because it will grow. But my husband built we call it a cottage garden. And we call it a cottage garden because it's literally in my front yard because that's where the sun is. And I'm growing zinnias and veggies and dahlias and, cucumber and watermelon, which I've never really been very successful, but we're still trying. We have a growth mindset. So yeah, I have a ton of stuff. But I'm really happy because with being like a mom of four and teacher, this new crazy title, Teacher of the Year, I'm still like, what's happening? And just ending the school year, it took me a while to get my plants in the ground, and they are now in the ground and they are doing their thing. So that brings me joy.
And I'm so happy that you're still making time to do that, right? Because we can easily say like, oh, I don't have time, or like all of these things are prioritized over this thing that brings me joy. I'm chuckling at the thought because it's in your front yard, right? Because typically it's in the backyard. And so people get to see all the things that you're growing. And I think I recently came across the cottage garden phrase. And I think that that's really cool that that's what it is. Kind of like, we're just growing all kinds of stuff and in front of the house. And so that's really dope.
Well, and also it's cool because when I'm working in my garden, if I were working in my backyard, we live on a pretty busy street, but it has a great sidewalk right in front of it. So it's so fun to be in my garden and then be like, well, hey, Mr. Kevin, or, how's your dog? We just don't, as a society, honestly set ourselves up a lot of times for real communication with people. I know that sounds weird. And I love the fact that we have technology. Technology is amazing. Right now I'm getting to talk to you in Atlanta. And you get to talk to me in my bedroom. But it's just really cool to be able to be in community with people.
Yeah, it's that personal interactions, right, that we're lacking. And that is such a beautiful thing too, that you're able to be outside and meet your neighbors and have conversations and interactions with folks who are living around you. And that's something that I am also learning and embracing, is the fact when I walk my dogs around the neighborhood, I have met so many neighbors the past couple of weeks because they're like, oh, you're always out here walking the dogs. And I just wanted to come and say hello. And so that's been really fun. So I love that you brought that up. And I do feel like, it's a great segue to our conversation as well, because I got to observe you in your classroom, in your first grade classroom, right?
Oh, yeah.
And how fun. That was so beautiful.
My first graders thought you were so cool, by the way. I think it would have been okay if I had been like, they were like, bye, Miss Collins. Hey, Miss Tony Rose. Like, they loved you.
I mean, and you were so great with them. And I could tell that one of your values, one of the things that you really prioritize is building that community and lifting up every single one of your students, because you gave them so many opportunities to collaborate, to have conversations before sharing it out loud with the whole group, right? So it was a lot of like, hey, turn and talk. We did this, turn and talk now, and then we'll share it out. And then there were times also where you were like, okay, you need to turn and talk first, and then you can show us where do you grab the stuff that you need to do self-pacing? Where can you find, the posters and like the materials that you need? And then also like having students come up and point out like, okay, how do you know if you're finished? Like, how do you know if there's a must do or a should do and aspire to do? What icons are you looking for? So it was really a community base, and you did that all it was whole group, right? Because typically sometimes when folks think about modern classroom, there's no time for whole group anymore. And it's like, no, there is time for whole group. It's just so much more intentional when we're in a whole group. And you did such a great balance of whole group and then collaboration, right? Now you're interacting with each other. And then now you're also hyping each other up because you're like, oh my gosh, let's clap because this kid knew exactly where to go. And it was just such a beautiful thing to see.
Well, that is honestly one of the reasons. I know it sounds like modern classroom. Like when people hear probably about modern classroom, they're like, hey, well, we're going to take out the human part of it. And that is absolutely not true. Like, in fact, modern classroom has enabled my classroom to really be like a tighter knit community. I know it sounds so crazy because like we're doing asynchronous learning, but it's not the case. If you set up modern classroom the way that modern classroom is meant to be set up, it is so beautiful. Like, I am working with kids more than I am if I'm just teaching in a whole group. I am getting to really, truly collaborate. I'm getting to also empower. Well, I'm not empowering. Kids are empowering themselves to lead out. And there is so much motivation with modern classroom. And I'm telling you, I started modern classroom and I became a believer. I taught a class the group of kids that are now going into 5th grade. Okay, I started modern classroom when those kids were in 1st grade. Okay. And so I need to tell you, like, this group of kids started kindergarten 6 feet apart in masks. Okay. This group of kids started kindergarten, honestly, on a computer, on a device, but like not with the hands-on concrete. And so the year after that group of kids was in kindergarten, I had them in 1st grade. And Tony Rose, I'm not kidding you, this was the most challenging. I love them so much. It's not on them. It was just on a little thing called a global pandemic. But they were like, it took me 12 weeks. 12 weeks. It's insane. But they did not know the behaviors of school. They did not know how to honestly like have conversations with each other. Putting their stuff in a folder took 12 weeks. I'm not kidding you. And so if I'm sitting here trying to teach a child how to learn, they have to have autonomy, and they have to be able to have that self-efficacy, and it just wasn't there. And so I'm going to tell you, I started modern classroom and became a believer when this group of kids that took 12 weeks to put their stuff in a folder could do modern classroom. I became a believer when I saw the power and the motivation and the mentorship of student to student and the leadership. And I've not been the same teacher since.
You know, it's really interesting because I remember sitting with some of your students, Katie, and I was like, hey, what are y'all doing? And of course, like the kids are so respectful and they're like, okay, I'll tell you, right? But it was also this like, can you now leave so I can actually learn? And so I had to be really quick with the conversations because students were just so focused and like you said, motivated to get right to their lessons and then have those conversations with their peers. And so I guess my follow-up question is like, why do you think they were so motivated to complete it? Right? And I know you said the autonomy piece. The autonomy piece is so important. But is there anything else that kind of tied in with the motivation piece? Because I know I hear teachers all the time say like, or kids are not motivated. They're not motivated. They don't want to do this. How did you went from like teaching kids how to put papers in a folder, for 12 weeks to now being able to access all the resources that they need and become self-directed learners. How did you get them motivated, or how did the model motivate them?
Honestly, kids can do more than we think they can. Honestly, like it's just an expectation. It's a paradigm shift. It's like, I'm not going to do this for all of you. You are so stinking capable. And so when that one kid like had success and knew exactly where to put their mastery check, oh my goodness, you just say, whoa, Johnny, did you guys see that? And you just say like, wow, you look at what Johnny did. And then guess what? Susie wants to do what Johnny did. And then Susie's actually teaching Cindy over here or Taj over here, like, hey, you can do this too. And it's just so much more powerful than if I'm like, all right, guys, now put your stuff in the mastery check. Okay. Like they are capable. They are capable, and they honestly, that's how they're not dumb. And they're not even that, like they are able to understand like what I believe that they can do. And if I believe that they can just do this, they're just going to do this. But if I believe that they can do this, they can even do higher. Like it's just, I'm not doing anything. It's just the format. It's the way it's structured. And it's just honestly getting them hyped up about it and promoting that like positive vibe around independence.
Yeah. And I was going to say to you for listeners, Katie, if you can't see this, Katie was doing that. If you believe they can do the lower expectations, right, they'll definitely just do lower expectations. And if you if you increase those expectations, then they'll also meet those expectations. So I think, that was something that I wrote about even before you said it. Like you were just so good at the positive reinforcement. I think it was just being able to name what the kids did really well and celebrating it in front of the whole class. I always say that that's probably one of the easiest things that you can do as an educator. It costs you no money. It costs no resources. You literally just say, oh my goodness, Johnny knows exactly what the steps are. So let's celebrate that, right? And I'm all about that. It's the little celebrations, is being recognized. Even as adults, we loved being recognized so that it just kind of showcases like, oh, people are paying attention and they're seeing my effort. They're seeing what I can actually do, no matter how tiny it is, right?
Absolutely. And even like as a first grade teacher, I think one of the first MCP units that I do is a narrative writing. And like, these are kids that are they don't have all the phonetic sounds, but they're writing, and we want them to write a narrative piece. And, some kids are like, have a fear. And so I think you start by like, there's going to be a child that is not able to even do a string, like a string word, like not even able to, but you praise that picture that they do. And you praise, like, I can see in this picture that you're, you wanted to walk your dog, but then your mom said no. Like, I can see that. That is so good that you're putting those details in there. And so you're just like, honestly speaking into existence, something that might not be there yet, but they believe like, oh, wow, my teacher can see my stories and my thoughts. And it's amazing how just that, like when you are able to speak in life into those kids, like what they can do.
It's the validation, right? It's all the validation.
Oh, it's just validation. It's like doing more than they thought they could, but like they've been able to do it the whole time.
Yeah. And I also have to say too, Katie, you were like, no, it's not me. It's the format. It's really the kids. And I also want to point out that like you are the creator, the facilitator of this environment, right? And because you're so positive, you created a learning environment where our students feel safe and brave to make those mistakes, to ask those questions, to move as they need to move, to get the skills and the standards that they need to get. I think that's also kudos to you, right? And I think it's just so important too. That's why I always say like a hype person is so needed. Like they're worth every penny that you spend on them, because people forget, especially our students forget our greatness. They forget their own greatness. They forget their own magic, because society, right? Just always saying like, oh, you're not good enough, or you got to do it this way, or you got to show up this way for you to actually make a difference. And it's like you were just always there, providing the positive reinforcement, providing the celebrations for students. And, you mentioned also that it's a paradigm shift, right? Of like, hey, you got to believe that your students can do the things. We're talking about first graders. These are still babies, right? Have you always had that mindset of like, you know what? My students can do all these things, so I'm going to encourage them and invite them to do all of these things. How did you have that mindset?
Okay, well, I need to like go back a little bit about just like how I've transformed as an educator. I went into teaching. I wanted to be a teacher since like I was little. I mean, it was in my DNA. Like I just knew it. I never really thwarted. But I started off as a high school French teacher. And when I say that, I was 23. I had just literally I had to stop shopping at H&M because I was 23 and I had to like go to Marshall's and find the most Mima clothes. So I looked like I was maybe 28. And so then I was also doing my student teaching in my own classroom. Okay. And I was also teaching French, and I was also teaching ACT prep, which they told me that was going to be like an enrichment class, and they are the biggest liars. And then a computer class, and then JV and varsity basketball. So here I was doing my student teaching in my classroom, not knowing that like, okay, our kid's supposed to be talking when I talk and I'm just speaking. Like literally I had the greatest mentor who would tell me after school, like, no, you need to work on your classroom management. But I felt like because I had to prove like I'm old enough, like I did not realize that teachers are never going to have it together. We're never going to be there yet. We're never going to have, like, we're going to make mistakes. And so I think freedom came to me as an educator when I realized I needed to be authentic for my students. I need to model what it means to be a learner. And I needed to number one, I needed to embrace something called the growth mindset myself so that I could model how learning is just a bunch of failing, which is sad because we don't like to fail, especially teachers. We love an A++. But I mean, that's just being authentic about the learning process. Like, and I think that that's so important. We do not, and I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, I am making mistakes, but I just learn from that. And we just read a book called A Kid's Guide to Failure and just modeling. We came up with a little chant after reading that book and we say it. We just stop and say it and we like clap for failure. We try, we fail, we get back up. And I say, this is the most important part. We learn from it. We try again and we don't give up. And I'll ask my kids, like I get disappointed failing and I say, okay, should I go cry in the corner right now? And they're like, no, don't do it. And I'm like, okay, well, just modeling that we're going to fail, but we can get back up. And we are, most importantly, we're going to make a better prototype this time. We're going to learn from that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I mean, it's the modeling piece, right? Like we always say, no, not even say. There's always kind of like this unset expectation, do as I say and not as I do, right? And so
Absolutely.
for you to name, no, I really had to be authentic and I had to kind of be vulnerable, if not be all the way vulnerable, and talk about how we're humans out here. So we're going to make all the mistakes. And I think that's the fun thing about learning, is that you get to fail over and over and over and over again. And then you just get better every single time. And I do love the shift now in education, that there's a lot more conversations about embracing mistakes, about embracing failures, because you know what? Now you know that that's a lesson, right? That's a lesson learned. What is something that we can shift to make that a little bit better, right? So, oh my gosh, this is so great. I love this. And you know, Katie, I was also thinking, you know, you were teaching French, high school French, right?
Oui, bien sûr. Je t'ai un
Yeah.
français.
Period. Okay. How did you end up with first graders?
Okay. You know, like, I just find that I have a little bit of the ADHD. I don't know if you can tell.
A little bit, Katie, that's you too.
I have to change it up. I mean, I really do. I think that that's part of just who I am. But like, my path in education is absolutely not linear. I started off as a high school French teacher, and I told you about all the little hats I wore. I learned so much in those first 2 years. And then there was a job. I had gotten certified to be an EL teacher. At the time, it was called English as a Second Language. And there was a job opening 5 minutes from my house, and my other job was 30 minutes from my house. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And so it was really, truly like going from high school, and then all of a sudden it was like a dive into the elementary world. However, I think that I was just in the secondary world with like the word elementary teacher on my forehead, and I didn't know it, because I was really teaching like kindergarten to the students. Like, I was teaching like, bonjour, comment ça va? You know, all the fruits and all the things that you would be learning in kindergarten, the colors, the numbers, you know. And I just loved working. It's just like, all of a sudden I was like, this is my home. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I could go back and teach high school, but I was also 23, and it just didn't feel like this was my home. I felt like a little bit, like almost like a little bit robotic. Like, I have to say the right thing. I have to. And so like, coming to the first grade, I mean, no, I was really honestly working with kindergarten through fifth grade. Side note, the first day I was there, the students did not know. Like, I called my high school friends and I was like, you're not going to believe this. Nobody can tell me their name. Nobody can tell me which bus they're on. This is insanity. But just loved it. I loved my work as EL. And then I got to help start a family literacy program in Hoover City Schools. It was my place. I loved working with the immigrant population. And then my district found out I could teach French. And so they were like, and now you're going to be voluntold and go to the middle school, and you're going to be the French teacher and EL teacher. And it was awesome. Like, middle schoolers are hilarious. I think I'm more of a middle school teacher than I am a high school teacher. But I ended up, at that time, I had been kind of here and there. And, you know, I was craving my own four walls. I was craving my own community. And so I got certified to do K-6, and I taught first grade. And I had EL students in my classroom, and I knew best practices. So I got to really, really do what I'd love to do with the group of kids that I love. So
Yeah, that's such a great journey there. So thank you for sharing, because I know, I mean, I agree with you. Middle school is where it's at. I think I went the opposite way, because you did high school and then elementary, right? Like for me, I went into school thinking I was going to be an early childhood teacher, and that was what I wanted to be. And then the universe had other plans and ended up being a middle school teacher. And I loved it. It was so much fun. And you're right. I also was certified. Like I got my master's in English as a second language, because that's what it was called back in the day. And so I just, like you, I'm seeing a lot of familiarity here, and I love it so much. I love hearing your story. So getting to hear this side of you, Katie, is just so beautiful. And so, you know, we're thinking about first graders, and you're like perfect for the littles, because you have so much patience, you have so much joy, and you have so much creativity when it comes to getting our first graders to understand exactly what self-pacing means, what autonomy, what having autonomy means. And so like, I'd love to know if you had any kind of challenges with littles, because I often hear also from educators, like littles can't do that. Littles can't self-pace. They can't do A, B, C, D. And I know that you had said, hey, if you have high expectations, they're going to meet those expectations. But what were some of the challenges that you came across when you were trying to shift from a traditional teaching to more of a self-paced, blended, and mastery-based learning?
Well, what really is coming to my mind right now is kind of one of my passion projects for this year. And have you read the book, The Anxious Generation?
Okay, I started it and then I got anxious and I stopped.
Okay, well, listen, there's like a, Jonathan Haidt, the author, has like a 45-minute like recap of the whole thing. So it should lower your affective filter and you should be able to but basically the whole gist of that whole book is that we as a society, and by the way, I've got to say this, I adore technology. I was on a panel about AI yesterday and I'm learning myself. Obviously, we all are. It's not like we've got to embrace technology, and technology is incredible and it's a tool, but it's a tool. And so this whole book is the fact that it goes back to the historical setting of the iPhone, which is in my hand at the moment, came about in 2007, 2008. And with that came just instant everywhere. You can have everything is instant all of a sudden, and also social media. So all of a sudden we're connected in a different way than we ever have been. And the thought is that we are overprotecting our children in the real world and we're underprotecting them in the virtual world. Now, the thing about it is technology is a tool and it is powerful. And the way that our children's brains are developing is becoming a different way than it was, say, in the 80s when I was running around barefoot, playing outside. My mom had no idea where I was, but I did come home when that sun went down. And we had a concrete, very, very concrete childhood. And the thing is kids have lost the independence piece. And it's because of, honestly, society. And I am a mom of 4 kids. And so this is we are in a new space and time with what our kids have access to, what they actually don't have access to, which is what Jonathan Haidt talks about is the phone-based, the kids that are in our classrooms right now have been raised in a phone-based childhood. So a lot of their life is on this, as opposed to a play-based childhood, which we know cause and effect and self-efficacy and trial and error. And then kids are just not having those opportunities. So this is my passion project this year. There is an organization called Let Grow. It's called the Let Grow Experience. And I really believe that technology, Let Grow Experience, modern classroom, we can all exist in this space together. Because we do need children to have opportunities to get out of their comfort zone and to try things and to fail and to be okay with failing, because this isn't their first time to fail. They failed repeatedly, but we are taking away that adversity for kids, just overall as a society. And so this experience helps. I piloted it last year in my first grade class, and Tony Rose, I saw incredible results. And let me tell you what it is. Okay. I need to say it one more time, the Let Grow Experience, letgrow.org. Kids. So it's so cool. It's K through 12, free curriculum, but I think K through 8 has kind of the same format. And then I'm going to be working with a high school this year with actually the student government to get the kids rallying around this independence, this paradigm of independence. But what I did was I talked about the theme, let's say the first month is September, and it's actually really good to do collectively, as a whole school, but I did it just in my little first grade classroom. I talked about independence. There's a PowerPoint they showed you, gave me, and it was 10 minutes of, hey, have you ever gotten out of your comfort zone? What does that look like? Have you ever done something that you've always wanted to try, but you've never really been able to try? And so I sent him home with like the little literature that's like about why we're doing this. Because the kids that are sitting in our classroom are the most anxious and they are the most depressed children that we've ever had to date. And so this is what it went like. Okay, guys, we're going to try something at home with your parents' permission. Go do it. And so I had kids come back, and there's that metacognition piece, and they come back and they fill out a leaf. And so this is what it looked like in my first grade. 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds are doing this. So Lily Kate came back and was like, Miss Collins, and told the whole class, like, guess what I did for my independence project? Because this is a homework assignment. I made sweet potato fries in the air fryer all by myself. Lucas's mom, like, messaged me and was like, what have you done to Lucas? He vacuumed the entire house all by himself. And it's that same mentality, that same thing that I was telling you about with modern classroom. Like, kids can do it, and they always have been able to do it, but we are not believing that they can do it, and therefore they're not doing it. And so, like, I actually, as a mom, my youngest was in first grade this year. Yep, we went to school together, and we were on the same hall. But Grant, like, it actually helped me as a parent realize, like, okay, like, I am overprotecting my kids in the real world. And this is an example. Like, we were at a baseball game, and Grant was cold. I told him beforehand, get your jacket. Did he get it? No, he did not. But he was really cold, and so I sent him to the car, which it actually made me think, I could go to the car and get this out, but number one, I'm annoyed. Number two, that's not a natural consequence for him. And number three, like, because I have been doing this, like, independence with my kids in my classroom, like, he can do it. So I said, okay, here are the car keys. I knew it was low stakes. It was low risk, but it was an opportunity for him. And so he went, this summer, he went to the hardware store with his little wagon. I told him what to get. I called Mr. Donald, the hardware store owner, and I said, hey, he's going to have my credit card. All is well. You know, because people are not used to 7-year-olds walking a half mile or 3/4 of a mile to get bags of soil and have a credit card. So it's really just the paradigm shift. And I think that has been very helpful. And that's what I'm really passionate about, because why are teachers tired? It's not because we don't like kids anymore. It's not because we just realize we don't make a lot of money. It's because the landscape in our classroom has changed.
All of that. Yes. And, you know, even when, first of all, that's incredible, Katie. I love seeing this progress, this growth, this journey of yours of like, you know what, I'm going to relinquish control. I understand now that I've been overprotective, and I want to just allow multiple opportunities for students, for little kids to show up for themselves and be self-directed learners, right? Because a lot of the times that's where learned helplessness comes in, because as teachers, we just want to save all the time, right? We just want to say, oh, okay, you're having a hard time. Here's how to do it. And it's like, no, let's let our kids struggle for a little bit longer, right? And then when you asked, why are teachers tired? And as I was thinking about that conversation, or the thing that you just said, I'm like, teachers are tired because we're still doing a lot of the work ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, we know that the highest form of learning is like the application piece and the struggle and the failing. And so, like, we don't love failure, but like, kids don't know how to fail. They don't know how to struggle.
Yeah. And that leaves us so tired. And I know there are other factors too, right? It's not just the fact that we're tired because we're constantly doing a lot of the work more than the students, because there's also the systems and the policies and all of that stuff, right? To kind of keep us tired because, hey, there's expectations to have high test scores. There's expectations that your students are all passing, right? All of that. But that is really interesting. Maybe when we really do relinquish control and trust our students to show up the way that we need them to show up, then maybe that takes off a little bit of that emotional baggage that we're holding on to, and maybe even that mental baggage that we're holding on to as well.
But I feel like truly we have to be okay with failure. Like,
yes.
We have to like really realize, like I said, like, I used to think I had to be right and I had to do, like, that's exhausting. And so I think, like, when you realize, like, and you have to embrace it yourself first, but, you know, my kid might fall down on the way to the hardware store, but like, is that going to be the end of the world? Like, you have to measure like the risks, obviously, but we have been taking away really low risk opportunities for our kids.
Yeah. And as you were talking through, like, let it grow and the alignment to modern classroom, right? There's so many things that you said that we also say in the model about the natural consequence, right? There's a natural consequence. Like, hey, your kid didn't bring his jacket. He's got to go through this natural consequence of him having to go get this jacket from the car, that you don't have to do it because, again, they are capable of doing it, right? And that's very similar to modern classrooms. Like, the natural consequences, you get behind if you are not prioritizing, if you are not staying on track with what you need to do, or at least asking questions and utilizing all of the opportunities and the resources that are provided for you already. There's those natural consequences. Because I think sometimes, again, as educators, there's definitely me too, we are so quick to have a consequence for students already. But it's like, no. The natural consequences are the ones that are actually going to make that huge impact as well, right? Because I feel like students have a way to working with middle school kids. They're like, oh, whatever, Miss D's going to do this anyway. That's the consequence for it, and it is what it is. But if it's a natural consequence and they feel that, there's a lot more pressure when it comes to that, right? So, oh my gosh, this is so great. I love it.
Okay, but like also like even a little bit deeper, like the accountability piece. Like, that's what I love about modern classroom, like that accountability piece. That kids know exactly what they're supposed to do. That self-efficacy. This is what research is showing. Like, kids need more than anything is that ability to take a risk, to see what happens, to learn from it, and then to take another risk. And that is why we're anxious. That is why we're depressed, because the kids are not knowing how to do things. Like, they're not, because they're afraid, and they are so capable. And also, like, the cool thing about Let Grow experience, they also have a Let Play experience. Like, teachers are tired because kids don't even know how to play together without us mitigating for them and problem solving. They don't. And so they have these Let Play, and then they have the Let Grow experience. I'm pushing the Let Grow experience because I'm seeing that, like, that was a major culture shift in my classroom in a short amount of time. And not only that, what's so cool about it is that parents are seeing, like, I'm not over there telling parents how to parent. Their kid is telling their parents and showing them, I can do this. I can pack my own snack. I can dress myself. I can, for the high school, I can schedule a doctor's appointment by myself. And it's all about, like, developmental too. I mean, you're not going to let you have to make boundaries for your kids. Obviously, kids need boundaries, but they need some freedom.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful too, because I know my sister and I talk about, like, oh my gosh, it's so crusty being an adult sometimes. Like, what do you mean I have to set up all of my appointments? What do you mean I actually have to show up to those appointments, like, that's so many steps, right? Especially with an ADHD brain. And so to hear, like, high schoolers know how to set up appointments for their dentist, their cleaning, their checkups. That is so, so nice to hear. And that is something that we definitely want to keep pushing forward, right?
But it's so cool. Like, the transformation is happening in me as a parent, with all this. And that's the magic part, is it's like bridging now. Like, parents are seeing, like, we don't, and all this overprotection is not coming from a bad place at all. Like, it is coming from a really good place, but it's just actually kind of harming our kids. And so parents, we are learning too. We've never been in this space and time. And so I think it's been helpful for me. Like, I took my twins, they're 13, boy, girl, to the dermatologist. And because I was thinking this way and I'm changing, I'm like, okay, guys, here's your clipboards. Here you go. And they looked at me like, and they're terrified, but guess what? I'm here I'm here. Ask me what
you're here as a guide. Yeah, you're here as a guide. You're here as a coach. You're here as a person to celebrate their wins, right? So that's so beautiful. And, this accountability piece that you talk about too, a lot of our teachers talk about, oh, students now feel accountable, like there's accountability for their learning. And I also always say that when I was implementing the model, it also held me accountable. Like, I also could not slack on providing feedback, on giving grades, on actually backwards planning. There was, like, a lot more accountability piece for me as an educator to show up the way that I'm expecting my students to show up. So it's not just the students that are being held accountable, it's also the teachers. And I think sometimes that's scary for folks too, right? It's like, no, we want the students, but not the teachers. Don't hold me accountable. But when I implemented it, it was such an eye-awakening experience of like, oh, I'm actually unprepared. And that is not cute.
I mean, but again, like as teachers, our heads can be down. We can be dealing with this situation or this situation. And then like, wow, here it is. Now it's time to teach measurement or whatever. But like what I love about Modern Classroom is for the unstructured brain. I'm a creative. Like it has put so much structure and made me as an educator absolutely more like having accountability for myself. But I have seen so much growth in my students, more growth. I have even like, and the whole thing as teachers is that we are not there yet. And so, I mean, I had awesome support mentors from MCP that was like, hey, have you tried this? Have you done this? And just even like I had done a whole unit and I hadn't even done a pre-test before. And then one of my tech coaches, Jamie Nutter, was like, hey, Katie, what if you did this? And guess what? The kids loved seeing their growth. They're like, oh my goodness, I made a 20. And look at this, I made 100 or I made a 95. Like it's just so cool. And it's that mastery based and the kids actually know it so well that they can teach each other. You know, Miss Collins is not the only one with a brain in this classroom. And they actually take a lot of pride in helping each other learn.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? When you have the structure in place, when you have this culture, this community, this classroom culture that you've created where they can learn from each other, it's so beautiful. I have to agree. When I was in the classroom as well, I was like, wow, I've never seen collaboration look like this before. If anything, it's always been like, oh, the answer is B. Like, leave me alone. But now my students were like, oh, no. Like, let's look at the evidence, right? Let's look at this passage. Let's talk about what a theme is. Let's remind each other what this is. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And, you know, I was thinking about too, when you mentioned failures and how important it is for students to fail. And in the beginning, we're always going to fail, right? And I think one of our educators was having this conversation with me, and it just kind of resurfaced again as you were talking, that when you start implementing the model, at first there's going to be a dip. Right? There's going to be a dip in data. There's going to be a dip in social well-being, right? Because students are like, what the heck is this? What are we doing? This is not what I'm used to. This is what school is. And so there's a dip. And I think sometimes educators freak out when they see that dip first. And it's like, no, that's good. That means there's a gap there. There's a learning curve there. And now you can just move up instead of go down, right? And so I just wanted to remind our listeners too that failure is going to happen in the beginning of anything that you do, just because it's so new to everyone, to students, to teachers, to school leaders, all of that. So that dip is pretty common. And it's not a red flag or anything. It's just like one of those things of like, hey, we're just getting used to this thing. Right. And you know, Katie, okay. When we found out that you were Teacher of the Year at MCP anyway, we were all so excited. We were like, oh my gosh, Katie Collins. Like, and I think for me also, it was the fact that like I got to see you in action, and then finding out that you got Teacher of the Year, I was like, well, duh, it makes sense. All of it makes sense, honestly, because of how you just showed up in front of your students. And like you said, super authentic, very much like, I'm going to scaffold everything so you don't have any questions at all. And if you did, that's okay, but it's going to be clear, transparent, because being clear is being kind, right? And so let's shift a little in the last like 9 minutes of our conversation. This Teacher of the Year thing, tell me anything, tell me everything. How was that? How does it feel? What are you looking forward to? What are all the things you're doing?
Well, it is just, first of all, it's like one of those things. It's wild. It is wild. And honestly, my wildest dreams was to become a teacher, but like, this is next level. Like I would never, ever dream of getting this opportunity, because it's really, truly, I'm just a representative. I really do, in my heart of hearts, like I am not the best teacher in Alabama. Like, and Aubrey Bennett, who is the alternate Teacher of the Year and the secondary Teacher of the Year, like he says the same thing. Like we are just representatives, and our goal is to help bridge gaps between just the people who are in the trenches and the people who are making the policies. And just getting to go, like yesterday, I was at in Shelby County Schools, who they were doing a really cool for teachers, by teachers conference, and there were multiple MCP presentations. Go MCP!
Heck yeah, go!
Yeah, so I get to go and kind of see. I mean, this sounds terrible, but like kind of like how the sausage is being made. Like I got to go. I'm getting to go, and I hope to go to board meetings. I'm getting to talk to board members. You know, there is just an opportunity to amplify the voices of those who are in the trenches implementing the policies. And I just think that we all need it. We can be friends. We can all be friends. And I think that one thing that Aubrey and I like talk about is how teaching can feel so lonely sometimes. And we just kind of like I said, our head is down. We have this, our plate, we cannot see it. You know, the landscape of like society has changed a whole lot. We just have a lot. We just all have PTSD from a global pandemic too. And I just think that we don't stop. We can barely stop to go to the bathroom and to eat lunch, let alone to get to talk to each other. And how important are those conversations? We're actually doing the same work. And we don't have to do this in a silo. And it feels like it. It just does. We're just tired. And any extra energy we have is like, maybe I should eat my lunch now and it's 3:00. So it's so cool to be in this spot, to get to see how this is happening. But man, we don't want to just go around and smile at and wave at people this year. Like we want to amplify the voices of those in the trenches. And so we are, our passion project is Let Grow Experience. And we're going to be we're going to go around getting to speak to different professional development. Like every day is different. This is crazy, Tony Rose. I was asked to go to a conference and speak right after Miss America.
What?
I know. I was like, they were like, an Alabama teacher, or they were like, and Abby Stockard, Miss America. And she was like, she's beautiful and like giving her perfect wave. And then they were like, and Katie Collins, Alabama Teacher of the Year. And I'm like, hey, y'all. But like, obviously I spoke after Miss America because Miss America had to get on a jet and go somewhere else. I would not have been, I would be, you know, her warm-up act. But it's just like really cool. Like I'm used to being, and I love, listen, there's nothing more. I'm already sad. I miss my carpet, my 20 kids looking at me, but like I get to go and I get to like hopefully make a difference for those who are in the trenches and amplify their voices through a podcast. That's right. I'm learning right now from you because I've never done a podcast, but as Teacher of the Year for Alabama, I was handed a brand new Chevy Traverse with a giant apple on the side of it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
If anybody sees me out and about, first of all, I'm sorry if I cut you off. I'm doing my best. But we're going to have a podcast from the Apple car. And we are going to, like, I want educators in this Apple car. Hey, we're going to Gulf Shores. We're going to talk to the sustainability teacher and then like have her jump in the car and maybe we'll go get coffee and, you know, just talk about like, hey, what's happening? What are hilarious things? What are some things that are like hard? I want this to be relevant. So guess what? Get ready, Tony Rose, to hop in the Apple car.
Oh no, I'm so excited, Katie. That is such a great idea because again, it takes teachers away from the classroom, right? So it's a different setting. You're in a car, you're having lots of conversations and it's just a different environment. I'm so excited. I am excited and I'm looking forward to collaborating with you and being a part of this whenever you need me to be a part of it. Yes.
And it's just really cool. Like we're going to also be modeling a growth mindset as we are learning how to do a podcast. Like we don't know. Yes. We have never been like to podcast school. We are 101, but it will get better. It will grow. Our podcast will grow.
Yeah. I'm so excited to hear all of the things that you're doing. You're such an advocate for all things to make learning just that much more engaging and enjoyable and fun, not just for the students, but also for teachers, right? And I love that. I love that so much about you, Katie. And again, I'm so excited to see all the things that you're going to do this year, this upcoming school year. And I know that we're going to air this somewhere around in August,
Okay.
but you and I actually get to see each other at the end of this month. So I'm excited to spend more time with you and to see you in action.
Let's go. Now, Tiny Rose, thank you. First of all, if you are any educator out there listening, and even if you're not, if you just love educators, we are having a back to school bash on July 31st. And I extended the opportunity. I was like, I got to have my MCP people there. Like, they are my people. And I'm so excited, Tony Rose, you're coming.
Oh, yeah. I definitely prioritize that, Katie, because I was like, huge fan. I'm going to be there. Say less. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it 10 times harder.
Oh, listen, I just want y'all there. I want your presence because I believe in Modern Classroom Project. It has transformed me as an educator. It has really, truly transformed my students. I have kids that are chanting Modern Classroom instead of going to recess. Like, I'm not kidding. I am not telling a lie. Like, I'm not telling a lie. And so when I see the power of that, like, we want engagement. That's what we want because, I mean, if they're not engaged, they're not going to apply. They're learning. So I definitely wanted you guys there. It's going to be at Avondale Brewing Company, and it is like a really cool venue. There's a stage. We have 2 DJs. One of them is a teacher by day, a DJ by night as a side hustle. And then we also have another DJ who's going to be kind of be like the closing DJ for those cool teachers that are still up. I might not be one of them, but you know, we got the young crowd. And then we have also a band, a cover band. So it's going to be awesome. We have like over probably 20 vendors there. It's just, we want teachers to know that like, we see you, we love you. Let's hang out. Let's be friends.
Yeah. And again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, community piece, right? This community piece of like, hey, you don't have to do this alone. We're here. We're going to celebrate it. All of the things, the celebrations, the mistakes, the failures, all of it. And what a better way to start the school year than that, right? Like that is really, really cool. So listeners will definitely do like an update on the episode when we release this to see how the back to school goes. But I am just so, so grateful for your time, for your energy. You are just amazing, Katie. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, go ahead.
What if one day like MCP can like sponsor a Bonnaroo for teachers?
Yo, that would be amazing. We could definitely make that happen, right? We could definitely make that happen.
I really do. This is kind of funny. And this is the first time I'm saying this out there, but like, what if Snoop Dogg ends up in the Apple car this year?
I feel like that's going to happen. I have really good feelings.
Here's why. He is all about mindfulness for kids right now. Since he's become a grandpa, he's been making kids music. So it kind of goes along with our educator wellness and independence. Maybe he can write a song about independence for kids.
I mean, Katie, if we're thinking about rappers, Lil Jon is doing a lot of meditation. Like there's a meditation videos of Lil Jon doing the voice over for it. So I think that could also be a vibe, honestly.
Listen, whoever wants to hop in the car, Lil Jon, Snoop Dogg, I mean, T-Swift, yes. Anybody, you are all welcome.
These are all aspire to do's and we're going to get them. Okay. We're going to manifest it. So Katie, how can our listeners connect with you?
Oh, okay. Listen, we need some friends. Okay. Because Aubrey and I just started something that we hope will be passed on from year to year. It's follow us on Instagram at Alabama Teachers with plural because we're in this together. We want to highlight the teachers, Alabama Teachers of the Year, and also Facebook, Alabama Teachers of the Year. So plural. But we want to pass this on. We want collaboration. We want to have some cool resources for teachers out there. So
beautiful. And listeners, we'll put that on the show notes so you don't have to do any Googling. We'll link all of that. But again, Katie, you're a rock star. Thank you so much for your time and your energy today and sharing your experience and experiences, your expertise and your experiences with our listeners today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, I truly appreciate Modern Classroom Project. Like it truly, I was asked to pilot it and I am just so grateful. In fact, 2 of my colleagues from my first grade team last year are presenting today. I think it's a 6-hour professional development on MCP, but they're actually have created the most incredible sight word accountability system for first graders. And I mean, kids struggle with this in kindergarten. So we might be going for kindergarten and first grade and second grade, but like a progression. It's wild. Like it's the opportunities are endless. And if somebody is just thinking about it, hey, how can this be used? I mean, I think that this is only used in secondary. No, it is not. I used it with first graders. I know people who are using this with kindergartners. Kids are capable, and it is going to change your life as an educator. It's going to take things off of you and give the power to the kids.
Thank you so much, Katie. Yes, exactly. And you're going to have to connect me with your colleagues who are doing that because I'd love to hear more about what they're doing because it seems amazing.
Absolutely.
And then also just the fact too, Katie, that just thank you so much for being flexible and patient. Listeners, this may be TMI, but we were just winging it today and it turned out to be such a beautiful vibe. Katie kind of calmed my nerves because I was a little anxious about it. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not send you the questions beforehand? And she's like, no. It's like we're sitting in a cafe and we're just having conversations. And typically that's what I do with our guests. So Katie, thank you for doing that for me. I just really appreciate you.
Well, that's what we do as teachers. We just have to we're flexible. And honestly, Tony Rose, my ADHDs, I may or may not have read the show notes before. So just know there's freedom and freedom and failure. There's like, sometimes that's the best thing that can happen. Like, it works out better.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much, Katie. This was so much fun. Listeners, remember you can always email us at podcast@modernclassrooms.org, and you can find the show notes for this episode at podcast.modernclassrooms.org. We'll have this episode's video uploaded on Modern Classroom's YouTube channel and transcript uploaded by Friday, so be sure to check back to access those. Also, we are asking our listeners to leave a review if this podcast has been helpful in supporting you to create a human-centered learning environment through a blended, self-paced, and mastery-based model. It does help other folks find it. Thank you all for listening. Have a great week, and we'll be back next Sunday.
Thank you so much for listening. You can find links to topics and tools we discussed in our show notes for this episode. And remember, you can learn more about our work at www.modernclassrooms.org, and you can learn the essentials of our model through our free course at learn.modernclassrooms.org. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Modern Class Proj. That's PROJ. We are so appreciative of all you do for students and schools. Have a great week, and we'll be back next Sunday with another episode of the Modern Classrooms Project podcast.